All right, back. I am back. I'm back. Fake live for Cuban. This is a fake live, but we will be back live Saturday, right? Kane's Roundtable. We missed a few episodes, right? But there's been things going on. But like I say, with my work schedule, and I got the youngster. It's kind of hard to kind of find a balance, right? And the youngster is up right now. You know what I'm saying? So she might get on camera in a minute, just depending on how she behaves, right? Because when she hear daddy, you know what I'm saying, antagonizing or going at the group of people that just say some of the most idiotic things, she wants to get involved in the conversation, right? She know y'all talking crazy, right? But anyway, I saw clean pockets again. And for y'all who don't know what I'm talking about, the picture, the image of Tyler Van Dyke. Well, no, I said I'm not saying his name anymore. 9 throwing an interception. And the caption, well, let me just paint the whole picture, right? Clean pockets. There's a photo of 9 against NC State. And the caption was, imagine throwing an interception with this protection. Now, on the surface, that sounds good. Like, yeah, how do you throw an interception not being pressured? You got all the time in the world to throw a pass. You're not being harassed or anything like that, right? But it lacks context, right? And I saw somebody, and I think it was Jerome from BR said this, right? And I'm paraphrasing. The individuals that sit around talking about clean pockets, y'all don't want to have actual football discussions, or y'all are incapable of having football discussions. And I agree, because when you look at this particular photo, there's a few things that you have to take into consideration, right? So when you look at the photo, what do you see? Simple math: 11 on offense, 11 on defense. When you look at that photo, there are 8 Miami Hurricane players represented in that photo. There are 3 NC State players represented in that photo. So what does that mean? So that means that we have 3 guys going out on routes against 8 defenders. But the pocket's clean though, right? So even if you take away the 2 linebackers that may be looking at the tight end, looking at the running back, all this stuff, what you essentially have is you have 3 guys being guarded by 6, which in football terms means that all of our receivers are being double covered. So that caption really should have read, imagine throwing an interception when you're trying to find the guy most open in double coverage. Think about that for a second. Think about sending the quarterback out on the field and saying, hey, look, um, just throw it to the guy most open in double coverage. Huh? What? Throw it to the guy that's most open in double coverage. What the hell are you talking about? Like, but again, look, these are the individuals that are saying these things now.
Your father never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
So I can't expect for you to understand this, right? But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about a narrative or a talking point that, for whatever reason, I let it slide. Why I didn't let it slide? It's so much stuff being said that I've completely forgot about it. But when they brought up clean pockets, it it clicked in my mind again, right? So this is what I'm talking about, right? So obviously we're at the Georgia Tech game where 9 didn't play well at all, right? And I have another point about the Georgia Tech game as well in my next point that I want to make or talk about. And so individuals in the know, the individuals that
Your father never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
they said that, well 9 is a liability with the ball. So the offensive coordinator has the limit the playbook to lessen his exposure. Now, that was said whole back half of the season, and we roll with it because again there was so much other stuff going on to the point that I didn't even feel like taking time to focus in on it because but now since the season is over, 9 is gone, and people are bringing back up old stuff. I said, wait a minute, let's go back down this road because me and my guy QB, we talked about this. We came to the conclusion on Coach Hayes' show that the offense that Shannon Dawson ran, obviously, which we pretty much knew it runs through the slot receiver, right? Let me get the youngster for a second. Bear with me. All right, you good? Yeah, make sure the youngster good. So the offense ran through the slot receiver, right? So for someone to say that from the passing game, right, the passing perspective, ran through the slot receiver, right? So for someone to say that the offensive coordinator had to limit the playbook and we couldn't do the same things that we did against Texas A&M, which the Texas A&M thing. Let me just go ahead and just knock that. Let me go ahead and address that right now. The thing Texas A&M did that the other teams didn't do, with the exception of maybe Florida State and Clemson, is they didn't play us straight up man to man. Again, when you have football conversations, one of the first things that will come up is say, a offensive coordinator's dream is for someone to come out and run man-to-man coverage, because the simplest thing to do is my guy has to beat the other guy. Whereas in zone, there are a little bit more intricacies that going on, right? So, for instance, you got the play where Jacoby George goes in motion and we get the touchdown, right? Remember that? People are like, oh, we didn't call that play anymore. So I'm like, again, we're in the offseason, so now I got a little bit more time to think about it. It's like, why would you call a play like that on the goal line if they're running zone? Think about this, right? Think about this for a second. If you're running man to man, and the other team, and just say you're an offensive coordinator, you know they're running man to man, I'm going to send you in motion. Now, if the other defense is not going to pass him off, the corner knows I cannot allow for him to beat me to the opposite side of the formation. So what you have in certain instances is you will have the corner actually outrunning the receiver to that side. So when you run that play against man to man and that happens, the guy can stop mid motion, you snap the ball, you get a blocker out there because now you can seal the edge. You can seal the edge defender. But if you in zone, the corner does not have to come all the way in like that. He's still an outside player. His outside shoulder is still free. So what ends up happening is, if you were to call it against zone, he takes on the blocker. If he's not a, if he gonna nut up a little bit, he takes on the lead blocker. So then you got the outside linebacker and the safety filling the alley because his job is to turn the play back inside. That's why you don't run that play against zone, which is what the majority of the other teams did after the Texas A&M game, right? But again, this is who I'm talking to.
Your father never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
But anyway, getting back to the limits in the playbook. Now, let's put this in perspective for a second, right? Why would you limit the playbook when the playbook against zone coverage, from what we see, is limited anyway? If anything, you would open the playbook up more. If you feel that your quarterback is struggling, why would you call a pass play? Again, I have to go back to the NC State game. Why would you call a pass play for 9 where there are 8 defenders in coverage and there's only 2 guys out for routes? But again, you guys said he had to call plays because the quarterback is a liability. So if my quarterback is a liability, you're telling me that regardless of situation, I'm going to call a pass concept where both of my receivers are on the same side, running routes, nobody else out in the pattern. So that's even worse. I mean, having 8 guard 3 is bad, but having 8 guard 2, bro, you literally have 4 players guarding 2 guys. Now, obviously, of course, you're not going to have a situation like that, obviously, because, again, like I say, still got to respect the tight end, still got to respect the running back. But just think about that for a second. You have 8 people in coverage guarding 2 people, and you are trying to say that the offensive coordinator had to call plays because the quarterback was a liability. He had to dial it back. We didn't see the plays against Texas A&M that we saw. Why would you see the plays against Texas A&M? Plays that are successful against zone are not always successful against man and vice versa. Most of the time, they're not. Calling a great man beater, pause, running slants, running drags, you know what I'm saying, running comebacks, those type of plays. Those type of things do not work in zone coverage because you have guys that are guarding an area on the field. I'm not guarding a man, I'm guarding an area on the field. So running like the route that Isaiah Horton scored on, running that route against cover four, that's not. I mean, it's still somewhat man to man because cover four, you essentially, that's that quarter, that from the hash to the sideline, that's you. So if the guy runs a situation like that, but if he was to run like a comeback or something, you got a defender underneath. If he runs a post route, he's running into the safety, right? Whereas if it's man to man coverage, zero coverage or whatever like that, if he runs underneath, you have no help. If he runs a post, you have no help. But y'all are going to try to tell me that the offensive coordinator, due to the quarterback being a liability, was to limit the playbook. Why would in what universe does that make sense? What universe does it make sense to say, hey, look, my quarterback is struggling when I'm sending 3 receivers out to be guarded by 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to do the same exact thing. I'm not going to try to get the tight ends more involved. I'm not going to try to run tight end screens. I'm not going to try to run maybe put more, dual back, 2 backs in the backfield. I mean, I'm not gonna do all these different things. Like what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Xavier Strepper line up and motion in to be a lead blocker. And they were able to get this off. Like no one challenged this. And I literally forgot about it until I saw clean pockets again. I'm like, bro, are you telling me that as a football coach, a play caller, I'm trying to protect my quarterback, and my protection plan is to have situations where I have 2 guys running routes, same side of the field. Again, this is not a knock on Shannon Dawson, but again, I'm just trying to get some understanding here. Again, all I do is play Madden, play NCAA. All I'm doing is playing Madden. And I go back to an episode of Undisputed when Shannon Sharp was there, and they were talking about the Philadelphia Eagles one time when Carson Wentz was there. I forgot what the head coach name was at the time, but obviously he's the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars now. And what Shannon Sharp was arguing against with Skip about was like he loved to run that scat protection, which means basically you don't have a running back in the backfield. Like everybody that's eligible to go out for a pass, all of them went out for a pass. So let's put this in perspective for a second. If my quarterback is struggling, trying to find let's try to find the most open person in double coverage. Why would you not put the clean pockets? So if the pocket is clean, if we're blocking things up, if you got the best offensive line that you got, why is there a need for the tight end to remain on the line of scrimmage and continue to block? And again, I looked at the numbers. I think Cam McCormick may have had 400 some odd snaps, and he blocked or ran block, right? He blocked on. Well, he ran block, right? He ran block. But again, this is PFF, right? So, but a lot of times he was in for passing block situations, running back, things like that. And I'm like, why would you not put more guys out on routes so that people are not double covered, essentially, and you can find guys that are kind of open in areas because you have multiple guys threatening one zone, flood concepts, things like that. But again, y'all said he's trying to protect the quarterback, and protecting the quarterback goes back to let's see who let's find the person that's most open in double coverage. But again, these are the people that saying this again.
Your father never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
But anyway, moving on. Shout out to NMD Grant, right? I don't always agree with the with things that he posts, and obviously, I'm sure a lot of people don't agree with stuff that I post, right? But someone reshared a video, the video that he posted last year for the non-safety against Florida State, and it got me to thinking, right? So I commented, I said this play along with the Georgia Tech fumble, for whatever reason, individuals went from pointing the finger at the person that was most responsible for it, the referees, and decided to continue to point the finger at nine. Now, again, like I said, like I started this off with, nine didn't play the best against Georgia Tech. Okay, cool, fine. But we still was in a position to win the game. If the referees make the right call, we win the game. But they didn't make the right call. They said Donald Chaney fumbled the football, right? And so my whole mindset is like, bro, let's have that same energy for that. And obviously, the magnitude is different. The end game wasn't going to be the same. But I feel like if and again after that game, people went kudos to those, right? But I haven't seen it this offseason. I haven't seen it right now. After the game, individuals found out who that referee was, posted the stuff, had them take his page down or whatever. But the thing of it is like that person should be just as famous or infamous in this fan base as Terry Porter. But people want to continue to talk about nine. Yes, nine played bad, but contextually putting it in that particular standpoint, you could have easily said, okay, nine didn't play the best, but it's a team game. We got the team victory, right? So it's like, why not just point the finger and say, look, this like referee, this is what you did. You cost us this game. I'm not blaming TBD for Georgia Tech. Now again, I've said a few things about the Mario Nunn kneeling and stuff like that, but my whole stance, I've never been like blaming Mario for that. Because again, yes, you could have taken a knee. Yes, you could have done that. But the referee could have done his job and should have done his job. Because obviously maybe sometimes they get video footage that's not necessarily shown to the general audience, and nothing about that play showed that Don Chaney was the ball was coming loose or anything. And I did a video about it, right, where I said, well, maybe the vantage point that they had, they couldn't decide whether or not. But then a day or two later, some more things come out. I said, oh, well, no, y'all just blew that call. Same thing with Florida State, right? Whereas I can't remember the scenario, but again, they called it safety. They punt the football. We got the momentum. We may drive down the field and score. And that game looks a lot different. But again, the onus is, oh well, I'm blaming nine for Florida State and I'm blaming nine for Georgia Tech. It's like, no, let's blame the Joker that has on the white and the black, just like we still blame Terry Porter. Because the same principle to that is well, the same point that I have for that is the same point that I have for like the O2 game. And obviously, I'm sure some people, when I say O2, shout out to South Coast game, they don't know what the heck I'm talking about. O2, they don't know what that means. But the game wasn't over after that pass interference call. We still had the opportunity to win the game. We just didn't do it. And nobody talks about that game, like the mass, which again is probably not as many people in the fan base that like talk about stuff like that. They kind of go along to get along. You know what I mean? They don't have they're incapable of forming their own thoughts and opinions, right? But the game wasn't over because of that blown call. The game wasn't over. That game actually went into overtime. We still had an opportunity to win the game. But nobody talks about brings up the point, oh well, Miami didn't play like we should have played. Obviously, Willis did go down. You have a few people that may say, oh well, yeah, maybe Larry should have bought Frank's red shirt and all this stuff like this. But those conversations are this small. But when you talk about the phantom pass interference call, that's all people talk about. And they blame it on the referee. Now, again, like I say, the magnitude of the Georgia Tech is not the same thing as the O2 game. I'm not even trying to compare it. But what I'm saying is, Leave 9 out of that. Let's bring it to the let's. I mean, we can have whatever opinion we want about 9, but 9 is not the reason that we lost that game. I'm not gonna say Mario Cristobal not taking the knee is the reason we lost the game, because there was 2 plays that occurred after that. The reason that we lost that game, where the referee makes the right call on the field and doesn't blunder this call. We're not even having this particular discussion. We just say, hey, look, 9 played bad, and then whatever happened to 9 after that, it is what it is, right? But anyway, this is my last point, right? I'm not even gonna talk about the Borrow situation. We'll talk about that Saturday. I don't really have much to say about it. It's the NFL, pre-NFL, right? But I saw a clip of AD Radicoach, right? And he was talking about how hard of a worker Mario Cristobal is. Youngster, you want to talk about it too? You want to talk about Mario being a hard worker? She got quiet then. She don't want to talk about it. But anyway, and so the first thing went through my mind, I said, wait a minute, this kind of sounds like that dreaded vote of confidence type of stuff. Now, the first time I remember hearing about it, vote of confidence, Lane Kiffin, USC, where the athletic director was like, oh, we're behind Lane, program going the right direction. He's doing the things that he needs to do. Fast forward, Lane Kiffin gets fired on the tarmac, right? Some people felt like he was prematurely fired, all this stuff, but that's neither here nor there. But that's my first remembrance of a vote, or they call it the dreaded vote of confidence, right? And that's what it kind of sounded like to me. When you're saying the man's working hard, he likes the direction of the team, we like the direction that we're going, and we know this, and that. That's what it kind of sounded like to me. And then when you look at the aggressiveness and the portal and all this stuff like that, where it's like, again, the individual said, "Oh, well, we're only getting portal players to fill needs," and I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute, we have, with the exception of the offensive line, there are 2+ portal players at every single position on this team. Quarterback, 2 portal players. Receiver, 2 portal players. Oh yeah, and tight end. Tight end only has 1. So, which at this point, the tight end is just an extension of the offensive line. Defensive line has multiple portal players. Linebackers, 2 portal players, the linebacker, and then obviously we know about the secondary, right? So I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, this kind of sounds like a vote of confidence. Like, hey, look, we're behind you. You're the hardest worker, because most people were like, wait a minute, how you just came from a situation where a guy who had never been a head coach before, was literally a wide receiver, never been a coordinator before, becomes the interim head coach, gets the job, a few years later, beating peak Bama for 2 national championships. And you're telling me that the guy that is 12-13 is working harder than the guy that, but like I said, sound like the dreaded vote of confidence for me. But I'll say this in closing. Shout out to Cam Underwood. I was at work this morning. We had a fire alert drill, so we had to go outside. And I saw a tweet that he put up. He said someone had DM'd him some odds for coaches, seemingly on the hot seat, and he said Mario Cristobal had very high odds. And I said, like, I could see a situation that he could be on the hot seat after this year, because again, nobody knows what the buyout is. Everyone is screaming 10-year deal, but this is a cutthroat business at the end of the day, right? This is a cutthroat business. You're dealing with individuals that have gobs of money, and if there's a way that they can find a way to not pay you what you are owed, they'll do it. Now, obviously, Mario and the individuals that brought him here, they're buddies and things like that. But I do think that yeah, this year is very important, because if it fails to meet expectations, then yeah, you are on the hot seat, because this year, if things go the way that they need to go, and they're gonna go, I'm gonna go ahead and say that they're gonna go, then you can sell to the people around and say, hey, look what happens when we got a very good team, right? So I know next year may be a little drop off because we're going to get some more younger guys involved, but this is what it looks like. So continue to invest. So you got something to say. But if you underachieve, you can't sell that. So you do become on the hot seat. So a 10-year deal to me really is like it's always been a 5-year deal to me. I know 10 is whatever it is, but we don't know what the buyout is. And it might not be extremely high after a period of time. But I'm not on the fire Mario train or anything like that. But I did think that it is quite interesting. Um, an interesting piece to kind of talk about because it did sound like 80 Radakovich kind of did give him the dreaded vote of confidence, right? But anyway, man, like I said, man, we back Saturday. Kane's Roundtable. I'm sure we're gonna have some topics to talk about. Um, and as always, man, it's about the you. Youngster, put the you up. She's trying. No.